Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the latest installment of MSP Business School. And this is actually our first live recording of 2022. So I'm really excited that we've hit into the new year. I want to welcome back my two co-hosts in crime over here. I hope you both had good holiday weeks last week. Rob, Tim, how are you guys?
Doing well, sir. Doing well. How are you doing? Happy New Year.
Yeah. Happy New Year to you as well. Yeah, the holidays are always nice, right? A little time to kind of kick back and pretend that you got free time for a few minutes and keep going, right?
I heard Rob, see that Santa brought you a monitor over there, and you're tracking cyber attacks across the world now.
We're tracking cyber attacks
going all over the place.
Those of you that go back to previous videos that are on YouTube, you will see that while that monitor is up there, it has been in all of our videos, just never on. so this is me actually using it.
Yeah, it's just you just turned it on.
Yeah, I kept saying it's part of the backdrop. We might as well get something on it to entertain.
That's
people.
Right. Good.
It also detracts from my face for radio. But that said, let's face it, nobody's here for me, and certainly not for you guys. They're here today for our guest, and our guest today is Walter Contreras. And Walter is the CEO, co-founder of Binox MSP, a incredible information source that can aid the sales process. And he'll be telling you a little bit about that as well. But Walter also is part of the MSP community, and we want to welcome there as well, because as many of these softwares that come and really grow us, the reason they come to be is because they come from MSPs who had a problem. Yep. So Walter, with that being said, I want to welcome you to the show and say thank you for joining us today.
Thanks, Brian. Thanks, Rob and Tim. It's my pleasure. I'm looking forward to this podcast.
Good to see you again.
Yeah. Same here. Here.
Been a few weeks.
So, Walter, we love to kick this off by first just learning a little bit about you and how you came to be in the MSP industry, and more importantly, how you came to launching Binox.
Sure. I am one of those super blessed people. I had the blessing of becoming an American citizen when I was 21 years old, and it's one of the best days of my life. I grew up in a country named El Salvador, and I went to a technical school. I learned a lot of things about electronics. This is way before computers, but when I did have the chance to work, I had an opportunity to work at one of the local hospitals, and I was always into automating things and work. This is AS400 days, and I was big in automated macros, so I didn't have to walk upstairs to reset printers. And, I fell in love with helping people. I truly fell in love with the feeling of how when you help somebody, they just so grateful, right? Especially when they don't know the technology. And these are the early days of computing. And over time, the hospital transitioned into PCs and the days of Windows. And I had an opportunity to be part of it. And it was just an incredible moment for me because I learned so much about computers. And when I had my opportunity, I went to school, learned a lot more. And, when I had the chance, I started dabbling with a couple of customers here and there, people that had small offices. This is way, taking out Novell networks into Windows networks, and
somebody as old as me days. Finally.
I still have my Novell certification pin,
Go back to the token ring days.
Exactly. Good times, and honestly, like, that's one of the things I teach my team now. It's like, how we came to this now, where it used to take us 27 diskettes to install Windows 3.11, and how today is just so simple. But the evolution of computing is fascinating to me.
Yeah, well, and look, we've Rob and I have talked to you a few times over the last few months about your service, and we're actually testing it out now, and we've got a couple clients who are doing the same. So, I guess just along those lines, can you tell us how you've transitioned into what you're doing now, and just what you see that kind of transitioning into over time?
Yeah, I think one of the hardest things for us MSPs, for us techie lovers, is making that transition from being a technology focused person to become a salesperson. Yeah. And I'm super passionate about that, because if I could do it, anybody can do it. I mean, look, 25 years ago, I didn't even speak a word of English. So if I could do it, anybody could do it. That's kind of how I feel. And Binox is truly this pain of finding leads and new customers, and what is a lead. I remember, I'm going on record with this, but I remember looking for leads on what used to be called Sales Genie back in the days. And, we found this software that used to be able to paginate automatically Sales Genie and take screenshots of the leads. And I remember like collecting leads, and I was like, why am I collecting all these leads if I'm not really doing anything with them, right? And, going from a technology person to a salesperson, it's a very difficult transition, but not impossible. So I want to make tools that facilitate that for MSPs. I want to make tools that not only can help you source the lead, but also what do you do with the lead? What's the next step with the lead? And, we have been very successful at creating a product that, number one, helps you source those leads, and not just any leads, but, leads that we consider highly qualified, like a term that has been thrown around a lot called human verification. For years, we spent a lot of time, like we will download leads from, let's say, InfoUSA, and we realized that only a small percentage of them were actually clean and verified. Most of the data was kind of old. And, it kind of drove me to think, like, if I'm having this problem, how many people are having this problem? And so in our tool, you can search by pretty much anything: location-based, SIC codes, industry types, size of businesses. And we'll give you leads based on that for human that are already human verified. And those come with LinkedIn profiles, social media profiles, emails, of course, and they're very fresh. And then we also have machine verified. But, my biggest passion, honestly, Tim, is what do we do with those leads? Like, what's the juice of dealing with those leads? So
before we get into what you do with those leads, just for the listeners to be a little bit more clarified, when you talk a little bit about machine verification, tell us what that really means and, how that differs from human verification, because I do think the human verification is a critical component of your system.
Yeah, in fact, inside of our platform, I trademarked this thing called Lead Guard. And where it came from was just, we were messing around with leads, and one of our customers said, hey, there's something missing on this lead. Can you get it for me? And I said to myself, wait a minute, this is where we really can help people, is by taking those leads and further verifying it. And so we have a system called Lead Guard. So if you source a machine verified lead in our system, which is about 75% accurate, right? These are algorithms that are looking at different things: LinkedIn, social media sites, email verification systems, and it's aggregated data that comes to 75%. Now, that's not to say that, Tim forgot to change his position in LinkedIn and he moved on to another job, and that information is no longer valuable. And so what we do is we verify it for you. And if you send it to us, you can create your own list. It's sort of like an email system. You send it to us, we clean it, we send it back to you within 24 hours. And, that's basically what a machine verified lead is.
Okay, so you're putting a lot of automation inside of you're just basically taking out a lot of the prospecting and the telemarketing side of just trying to grasp information, and you're automating a lot of that. Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, because one of the biggest pain points we've heard, and we experienced that in our own MSP, was, okay, we got these leads, now we have to clean them. Let's just scrub them, find out if the information is correct, the address correct. We do a lot of mailers. So we're sending out letters, postcards, or anything. And so we realized that a lot of stuff were coming back. I had the stack of letters coming back, and I was like, wait a minute, this just can't be happening. And so we were spending a ton of time. I think we cleaned somewhere around 60,000 leads in 2018. Something like that. I mean, insane amount of leads, just to come to the number and realization that a lot of these providers just give you real dirty old data.
Yeah. I mean, all you have to do is look at your own LinkedIn feeds here right now as we embark on the new year and see how many of the people change jobs, right? then
Yeah.
compound that across
Yeah.
the globe, and you'll see that a lead can become stale very quickly, and it's
Very
tough to track.
fast.
It's tough to track where these people go and who the new decision makers are coming behind them, right?
Yeah,
it's
and
funny,
the way we eliminate that is by having our lead card guarantee, right? So if any of those leads are stale, in fact, our system has a tooling, we call it lead enrichment, where you can actually take those old lists, or even if you have a connected product, like if you connected your PSA or your CRM to us, you can look at that old data you have, pass it through Binox, clean it, and then send it back to your tooling already scrubbed clean. And we saw a lot of people, just spending a ton of time on that. And that was a big thing for us as we were building the platform.
So let's break this down a little bit. You kind of touched upon something, and I want to pivot a little bit into that. You touched upon the fact that in the MSP community today, and I think all four of us on this call hear it from the clients that we all serve regularly, the biggest challenge is client acquisition. The biggest challenge is making new acquisition sales. The biggest challenge is figuring out how to get a salesperson properly equipped when I'm technically founded and I don't really understand the sales process to get going. And I think each one of us has taken on a different part of that relationship to try to help support a little bit. But let's start, Walter. I go in and I get the Binox platform, and I don't have a sales process. Am I going to succeed?
Well, if you join my monthly coaching call, you will. Free, and it's free.
That's what we call a softball.
and by the way, it's free. I mean, look, I am so grateful for the opportunities given to me that my entire purpose in life is to just give it back, right? Like, there's so many things that I do. I actually just give out my free LinkedIn platform, like how I do my playbook on LinkedIn, and I think we put like 20K out of there of monthly recurring revenue last year just from LinkedIn. And use that process, I can guarantee you're gonna get success. So, but to answer your question, I truly believe that it's possible to transition. The thing is that we have in many occasions been ill-advised on how to do things. I can give you a perfect example. In the IT industry, pre-COVID, you had to have a $90,000 a year sales manager with 20% commission or whatever, right? Well, I can tell you that is not the case with us. And this entire sales process that before was, how many people can you actually see in a day if you were doing in-person appointments? The most I did, and I tell you, I drove all over New York doing it, eating out of my car, doing it, was 2 people, right? Was maybe 2 appointments. And so we do an average of 10 appointments a day today. So the opportunities are more because you can do them on Zoom, you can do them via other tools. People are more open to having these conversations with you, which before they wouldn't.
100%. Yeah.
Systematizing the process of, going from a simple 10-minute phone call to a risk assessment or to some sort of an audit and then close. That process has changed drastically. And I just think that we have been ill-advised in many ways as an MSP to follow a very archaic method that is not going to last long. I was just telling one of my team members today that I, being in this industry, don't comprehend in total how much COVID has affected the digital transformation of businesses. When I was at Columbia University, the biggest thing our professors were talking about was digital transformation. But the rate of which COVID has accelerated that, one could argue it could be 20 years ahead in the sense that everything is moving so much faster. Yeah. And I tell people that come to look at Binox, and this is not a sales pitch, okay? But I tell people that come to see Binox, I say to them, look, your competitors in your area, if they're getting Binox, they're downloading hundreds of leads that are highly accurate while you're still, just looking on Google for people that may or may not fit your criteria. Yep. So technology, the digital transformation, the age of data is AI. It's becoming a big thing. It is already a big thing.
I agree with you. You know, knowing how fast we've grown in this short amount of time because of COVID, like how does that change the trajectory and the future of data? You know, like what we're seeing right now, and where is it going? You know, as far as you see.
Massively. I mean, I can tell you right now that, you know, I'll give you an example. Okay, more of a practical answer. So in the past, if you were a salesperson, you and I maybe have gotten some good training from a good sales trainer, right? The next generation of salespeople that we're hiring today are younger than us. So for that reason, even the way they work is different.
Yeah.
So significantly. And so to give you an example, I was just meeting, and this is, we're talking about future products that will be part of Binox, but we're basically working on the system where if you're a salesperson and you were on a Zoom call, part of that Zoom phone call could be taken out of it and give it to you in a context that you can take an actionable item from that. Meaning that if you talk to somebody about a proposal on something, artificial intelligence can take that information, give it to the salesperson to close faster and to even craft messages to them. I was fascinated when I was looking at this because what is the biggest problem of younger generations? Writing, right? Writing is a big, like you and I write differently to our prospects than younger people would. And so AI is going to give them the context of what to write. So the people that will use that technology versus the MSP that's making not even phone calls to get customers, they're not going to survive. I'm just telling you, they're not going to survive. And so we have to promote the use of data, and I'm talking about the right data because there's dirty data out there, but we have to promote the use of data and how to use that information to improve our businesses.
Well, I think, you know, look, we all talk about data-driven decisions, data-driven actions, right? And, you know, what I see here is, and you touched upon something that I think is really important to maybe explore a little bit more, the changing role of the salesperson, one, because of the age of the salesperson, but two, quite frankly, the way the consumer consumes as well. I think all of us would agree now that, you know, telephone prospecting is to grab research, which obviously Binox might help you with, and it's to try to make that call, but it's not necessarily the first place you're going to make contact and reach somebody anymore. And the selling process itself's changed too. You know, it's almost about making a friend first and a pitch second, right? So, you know, you mentioned that you've got hooks into your PS or your CRMs and your LinkedIn's in the automation. Maybe you can expand a little bit more of what you're seeing in how your tool can enable the modern day salesperson.
Great question. So think about, you know, how much time a salesperson spends looking for the right contact, right? So they'll go to somebody's website, maybe they're looking at their LinkedIn profile, and then they say, you know what, this might be a good prospect for me. But is it? Right? And so what Binox does, we have this browser extension. So as you navigate through websites and you go to one of your prospects' website, you literally can pull on Binox who they are, what type of company, and you can see revenues, you can see industries, all of that. And with one click, you can send it directly to a marketing campaign in your automation system if you have one. By the way, you know, we talk about automation, but let's face it, there are plenty of MSPs that are just using their ConnectWise, their AutoTask to do some marketing. And that's perfectly fine, by the way, because if you're just sending emails, a couple of emails here and there, making phone calls, like I do promote just making at least, you know, X amount of phone calls per day, depending on the size of your business. But because people are going to tell you they don't have time to make phone calls, but that's not true. And, you know, even if they're using that, that's good enough to start. Like you don't have to be, and I think, you know, that's an really interesting question, Brian, because I do think that because we're technically inclined, we fall in love with trying to figure out how HubSpot works for 3 months rather than spending 30 minutes a day making phone calls, right?
We see that all the time, right? It just it's the pursuit of perfection when it comes to automation from a sales aspect, but in trying to get that perfection, you miss a shit ton of opportunities because
I'm guilty of it.
Yep.
I'm guilty of
it's
it.
true with anybody, right? Like it's an easy trap to fall into, especially with sales enablement picking up such steam and being such a buzzword these days. It's a very easy trap to fall into. So
perfection is the enemy of progress, right? That is the simple statement. And it's also where salespeople go to die, I think, right? When they're sitting there trying to create that, we can have a little fun with Rob right here, Tim. When they go to build that top 200 list and it takes them 6 weeks to get that top 200 list, because they got to find just the right people.
All right, pile it on, fellas, pile
it on.
Well, to be honest, you touch on something that I think is critical, which Binox is super passionate about, which is, what do we do with those leads after? And in the next 3 months, by the end of Q1, we're launching our own CRM system. We're actually not calling it a CRM. We're calling it an SOT, sales optimization tool, because we believe that, CRMs actually are not the right tool for this kind of thing anymore. They don't tell you intelligently what to do next. Mm-hmm. They're not feeding you information based on actual activities. It's an opinionated system, right? That if Tim goes in there and puts that, this customer may not close, blah, blah, blah. But really, is that customer not closing, right? Or is it you not doing your job? Or are you not moving the opportunity properly? Are they clicking on the proposal? Are they reading your emails? Are they interacting with your social media content? Like, it's just an opinionated system. And so we believe that the CRMs need to evolve because the generations of new salespeople are evolving.
Yep.
So to say that I'm going to use confusion for the rest of my life, it's impossible, right? I mean, it takes so much effort to keep track of the customer relationship in there. It's so much effort. We believe that a true CRM should be telling you what to do next, should be dictating based on true data. And again, I'll go back to the data because at the end of the day, that's all that matters. Go back to the data and say, hey, look, this customer is interacting with you. Here's the proposed perhaps message that should go out. This is the next step you should take in the sales process. Because you built that customer journey and you know exactly where that customer falls in, this is what you should do next. But CRMs today don't do that, I mean, I think I spend most of anybody in this call on this podcast time on CRMs and automation. And I can tell you that we spend more time interacting with these tools than actually focusing on what you said before, Brian, the relationship.
Yeah. Well said.
Very true.
So we're getting near the end of our time, I think, right, Rob? So
yes, sir.
I think you had something you were going to ask. I'm sorry.
No, I was just commenting on, the whole thing is moving away, in my opinion, from that 100 dial a day blasting of the gatekeeper and trying to find out the information. We've got to have a better multi-channel way to get to that decision maker, right? It's not just a brute force type of technology anymore. What worked 5 years ago is definitely not going to work now. And you've got to find an AI way to get you to less calls, but more impactful calls. Because there's other things that you have to do as a sales rep now. It's not just picking up the phone anymore. And going through the phone book like I used to have to do, right? Calling the phone book. It's different now, right? And AI, I agree. The future of data and the future of automation is definitely here. And if you're getting on board, you're getting a competitive advantage. And if you're not, you can still do it. You're just getting beat by your peers.
Yeah, it's not that it can't be done. It's just if it used to be 60 calls a day, now it's got to be 100.
To get to the same effort.
I was watching.
But who wants to do 100 calls a day?
Not me. So I was watching the movie Glenn Ross. Have you guys seen that?
Yeah.
So,
of course.
And it's perfect for me because I'm actually launching my next Binox campaign based on brass balls, right? And it's funny as hell. But the importance of the lead back in the 70s, right, 80s when the movie was made. already existed, right? It's just the evolution of such.
Yeah.
And by the way, one would argue that you can do so much more now because of automation and technology.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is the future. We're super happy about it.
Yeah,
totally agree.
To be bringing it to the MSPs too, it's such a pleasure.
Yeah.
Well, Walter, I really want to thank you for joining us here today. It was mighty appreciated. For anyone that's looking to get a hold of Walter, his information will be included, including his LinkedIn profile will be included on the podcast. Also, this episode will be on mspbusinessschool.com or anywhere that you get your podcast. Walter, before we break away, any final thoughts for us?
Stay true to your roots. I mean, you are a service-based company. I think we're here for a greater purpose, which is serving other people. And the more you collect in your business, more people you get just to help them, the better. That's the whole purpose.
Totally agree. Totally agree. Fellas, really appreciate it today. As always, thank you very much. And we'll catch you next time.
Yeah. Great having you on, Walter.
Thank you, Walter.
All right.
My pleasure.